So today we're going to talk about don't retire unprepared. It's interesting because very often people think they have thought of everything when it comes up to their retirement. But any retiree will tell you, no matter how much you have planned, something unexpected will come up that you hadn't considered. So to try to alleviate that, we're sharing today 5 powerful questions to be asking before you retire so that you at least have all the bases covered and can deal with the unexpected things a little more gracefully. Now, I was reading an Employee Benefit Research Institute's 2024 Retirement Confidence Survey. And while most people expect to retire around age 65, which makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons, the actual retirement date is closer to 62. In fact, 7 out of 10 people reported retiring earlier than age 65. Now, primary causes for that were healthcare issues, caring for themselves or for a loved one, causing them to leave their job, or changes at their job, downsizing, for example. Now, these are all things that you can't control. So let's talk about things you can control and prepare for no matter when retirement comes at you. Ask these 5 essential questions. Question number 1. How will retirement change my life? Now, this question might surprise you, but I hear from retirees that the non financial issues are just as important, or maybe even more important than the financial issues when they are going through that retirement transition. So, things to think about here so that you're not caught off guard are purpose. You know what you're retiring from, but what are you retiring to? Having something to look forward to is very important. Studies show that people who have a sense of purpose have greater happiness and even better health. So think about what might make you get up in the morning and what might help you feel fulfilled when you go to sleep at night. Next is your social network. If your friends were primarily centered around your work and you had after work activities that filled your hours, well, once that is no longer part of your daily routine, who will you spend time with and how will you spend that time? This is an exciting possibility. It might sound a little depressing, but it's not. There are so many opportunities that are out there. And if you're curious about some of them, we have blogs on our website that talk about things that retirees have done that have filled them with a sense of fun and going into life's next chapter. Finally, is your identity. Will your sense of identity change when you no longer work in your profession? And will the way that others view you change as well? Again, not something to be scared of, just something to anticipate that I hear catches a lot of retirees off guard. At a party, for example, rather than introducing yourself as, "Hi, I'm Laura, I'm a certified financial planner." Well, when I'm no longer working in that capacity, how do I introduce myself? So think about what will change in your identity and how you feel about that. You have the power here to craft a new identity, maybe revisit some things that you did not get to do while you were working because you were very, very busy. So think of that as an opportunity rather than something that is going to be sad or scary. Moving along, financial issues to consider include that you might be looking at a new budget. Some expenses may go up and some may go down. I had a retiree tell me she was really surprised because her expenses actually went down when she retired. And she realized it was because she was no longer spending the money on makeup and hair and clothing that she was doing when she was working. She stayed at home most of the time. That was her choice. So she didn't have those budget items. Also, where your money will be coming from will be different. You'll no longer be getting a paycheck from your employer. Instead, you'll be getting a paycheck from other sources. And we'll talk about those other sources in a moment. But the key is to plan your retirement budget. You can visit our downloads page on our website for a template to help do this. Things will change, but some things won't. So be sure that you're planning for what that budget is going to look like when you retire. Question number 2. This has to do with that budget. When should I take Social Security? What a great question. There is no rule of thumb on this, guys. There's no one size fits all. Social Security is very personal, and I think sometimes people don't realize that. The important ages here, age 62 is the first available. This is the first time you could take Social Security. It's available to you. However, this is going to be the lowest benefit, and there will be a further reduction if you are continuing to work. So you get what I call a double ding if you take Social Security and you're still working at age 62. Also, keep in mind, if you have a surviving spouse, they will take over your payment after your death, and they will be stuck with that reduced amount as well. Potentially. Again, it depends on your Social Security and your spouse's Social Security record. But just be aware, it's not just about you taking that at 62. It might affect your spouse. Age 65 is the age most people think about Social Security. That's when Medicare kicks in. And that's where, as we saw earlier, most people think they will retire. So there are a lot of reasons to think about age 65. But age 67 is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people. For most people, that's full retirement age, where the benefit is no longer reduced if you are working. In fact, it's not reduced at all for most people because that's where they consider you the ripe age for retirement. That's your full retirement age, and you'll get your full benefit. Now, some people like to wait until age 70 because that's when you get your maximum benefit. So each year, mathematically, your benefit increases by roughly 8%, technically. So up until age 70, there could be a benefit in waiting, but after age 70, there's really no benefit. It does not continue to compound. So that's the range of ages on Social Security. But again, don't assume. I work with a lot of teachers who are subject to other provisions that are not reflected on Social Security statements. So really, you should be asking ahead of time. Ask the Social Security office or a financial planner to look at your specific record so you have a better idea of what Social Security might look like for you at various ages. Question number 3. Boy, this is a big one. How much will healthcare cost in retirement? So again, that Employee Benefit Research Institute did a simulation model, and they've got 2 different simulations here. First is for a male age 65, and the other one's for a female age 65. And what they did was they said, these folks are enrolled in Medicare Medigap with average coverage, and they looked at what they would be potentially paying from for the whole retirement. So from age 65 all the way to, I think they probably modeled about 30 years of retirement. 95 or 100 is what we usually model out for. And these numbers here are having a 50% chance of having enough to cover the premiums and the average prescription drug costs over those 30 years, that lifetime of retirement. So look at these numbers, 106,000 for a male age 65 and 128,000 for a female age 65. So these are significant numbers. And healthcare is an ever-changing aspect of retirement. It's not set in stone. You'll likely use Medicare for a lot of things that come up for healthcare that you would need. But even the costs of healthcare and Medicare can vary. So this is not to scare you. It's just to look at, this is a significant cost that you should be considering is part of that retirement budget. So how much might those plans cost? Well, let's look at Medicare Part A and B. In 2024, the average cost is $174.70 a month. Usually that's deducted out of your Social Security benefit. Now that could be higher depending on your income. A lot of people don't like that at all. If you are a higher income earner in retirement, your Medicare premiums will likely be higher than that. So just be aware. What that includes is the Part A deductible is $1,632 and the Part B deductible is $240. You can also have Medigap plans, which vary by age, location, health, insurance company plan type. So there's a lot out there, guys, but a sample range of those Medigap plans could cost from $30 a month all the way up to more than $400 a month. So just be sure that you are thinking about health insurance, what options you have, what options you might want to have, and put this into your retirement budget and your retirement planning. Next question, number 4. What will taxes look like in retirement? Another part that sometimes catches retirees off guard. You've probably been saving in tax-deferred accounts all of your working life. Most people do. That's a 401k, that's a 403b, that's even pensions. Well, guess what? When you retire, all those tax-deferred accounts that you now have access to, you will owe taxes when you take money out. That's the whole idea. That's how they're designed. But that means that when you look at the amount that's in a tax deferred account, you have to mentally subtract taxes. You don't have access to that entire amount. Now, your tax rate supposedly would be lower in retirement, so that could be a good idea, but it's usually not zero. So, you need to plan for how you are going to take money out of those tax deferred accounts in the most tax efficient way possible. Now, if you have tax-free accounts, usually with a Roth designation, so that's a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, a Roth 403b, guess what? Yay! No taxes are owed as long as the account qualifies. So that you can look at that amount very differently. You can look at that amount and say, that's the amount of cash that I have access to. And if you have both tax deferred and tax free accounts, fantastic, because then you can help control that tax bracket. You can take just enough out of the tax deferred to get you up to a tax bracket, and then you can start taking out of tax free so that you can have some control over what you pay in taxes. Very cool. If you are years away from retirement, put this in your head and save into those tax free accounts. Even if you don't get a tax break in the current year, you're going to love it when you get into retirement. You start taking money out of those. Finally, something else that surprised people about taxes, Social Security is taxed for most people, guys, up to 85% of your benefit. Now, that's not an 85% tax rate. That means that if you receive, for example, $100 from Social Security and you were at the highest tax rate on Social Security, $85 out of that 100 would be taxed as normal income, whatever your normal income tax rate is. For many people, that's going to be somewhere between 15 and 25%. So even Social Security is going to be taxed. The key here is don't be caught off guard by taxes. Considering working with a professional, a tax preparer, especially during the first year or two of transition when you're getting used to how things are changing. And finally, question number 5. How should I invest my retirement savings? Many people think either that when they retire, they just put everything in cash, or that they put everything into something really conservative like bonds, for example. Guys, that's not going to help you. It's not going to keep up with inflation. And in fact, as Ryan's mentioned before, the bond market is doing a lot worse than the stock market right now and has been for the past year or two. So don't just think, well, automatically I retire, I'm going to invest conservatively. That's maybe not the idea. You do, of course, want to avoid major losses because you don't have the time anymore to make up for a major loss. So you want to be careful about how you invest. But a solution, for example, that we have and Morningstar talks about as well is bucketing. What I mean by bucketing is that you put away some amount of cash. Usually we do 1 to 2 years worth of what you will need, your paycheck, as it were. Put that aside, but then invest the rest for growth. This can give you peace of mind, but make sure that you don't get behind with inflation and with the cost of living. So we have what we call a waterfall strategy that allows a paycheck to be set aside. So it doesn't matter what happens in the market in the next year or two, that is safe money. And then the rest to be invested for growth in a very strategic way. There's no one size fits all strategy. Your allocation should be reviewed annually and adjust over time based on your changing needs in retirement. Finally, I want to leave you with some resources. Now, how can you figure out some of these numbers of what you will need and how you need to budget, where your income is going to come from, and what you can expect? So many questions. Well, there are lots of online calculators out there. I am a little wary of online calculators because they have assumptions that are not necessarily personal to you. So they could give you numbers that are either a little bit off or way off, depending on the calculator you use and what your personal situation is. Remember how I mentioned with Social Security, a lot of teachers aren't aware of that WEP provision until they start talking to the Social Security office. So online calculators aren't going to work for them. So you could start there to get some parameters, but I think ask an advisor to help you answer these essential questions. Make it more of a conversation so that all items of your life are considered, those non-financial items as well as the financial items, to help you ease into that retirement transition gracefully. Also, calmly so you don't feel unprepared and nervous. Retirement is a great time of life, guys. I want to make sure that you enjoy it. So ask these 5 questions and see what answers you get to help you retire with peace of mind.